What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Nothing's Off the Table. And tonight, we are actually living up to our name, Nothing's Off the Table. We've got a very interesting topic for you guys tonight. We have Dorian here with us, who's going to talk to us about Shibari. Don't know what it is? I don't either. Don't worry about it. We're going to find out here in just a second. So, Dorian, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Who did you bring with you today?
This is Gaia, one of my models that I recruited, but I've known her for
elementary school.
Since elementary school.
Yeah.
Wow, so we're talking like 2-3 months ago? You guys kind of young, right?
Close enough.
No?
Close enough.
Easily like 20 years.
So Dorian, let me ask you, what is Shibari?
So Shibari, it's a long history with it, but Shibari is a Japanese rope bondage art style. It's really stigmatized a lot just because when people think of rope, they think of sex or nudity or sexual stuff that goes with it. But how I do my work is strictly artistic because that's how it was not originally intended, but that's how modernly it's originally intended is for artistic use. But how it was originally intended was so in Japan, early 1800s, the samurai and the wardens of the prisons used to bind their prisoners, but they had a code where they have to treat them well. Mm-hmm. So they would use shibari and use artistic ties and binds and arm benders to show the stats and status of their prisoners. So that's where it was originally for, was torture and capture.
So is this a part of the Bushido code?
I'm not sure if it's part of the Bushido code exactly, but I would assume it is because there is a giant code with anything Japan related. There's like morals and code and honor. So with their prisoners, they had those ties, and the more complex the tie, the more high status that certain prisoner was.
So showing deference to whoever their prisoners were. Got it. Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you seem a little nervous, man.
I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really hot in here.
It is hot?
Yeah.
Well, we can fix that.
So now I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're Gaia, and are you a samurai? You're not. Dorian, you aren't either?
I am definitely not a samurai.
All right, so how? Now that we have an idea of what it is.
But he is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
This is
Barely,
true.
Barely.
No. Ain't no barely. That's like being almost pregnant, right? So how'd you get into this? And how long have you been doing it?
Okay, so I got into it when I was actually 15. I started self-tying. So a family friend who goes by, well, to me, I call her Lady Esmeralda, but her name is Esmeralda. She's kind of, I guess, what you would call an entrepreneur of kink. So she travels a lot. She promotes events, and she recruits people, and they make product like floggers and different types of rope and just a whole bunch of stuff in the kink community. But she's
speak to me like I'm ignorant, because I'm ignorant.
Right.
Okay,
so I don't know what a flogger is.
So a flogger is like a mini-tailed leather whip. So you have the handle, which can be any material, can be wood or metal or however you want it, and then the ends, most of the time they're leather, but there's different materials for it. Mm-hmm. They all come out, they're like little tails, and it's used for obviously whipping, stings, and blunt impact.
So like a cat of nine tails.
That's
Exactly.
what I was thinking, but
Exactly.
but without the
metal.
Without the
metal.
metal. But there are those that have metal in it. It depends on how far you want to go with it.
I don't want to go far to hold that. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. But anyway, so I'm sorry. Keep going.
So she runs a business through kink. So she's actually a family friend of a long time ago, from a long time. I'm sorry. And when I met her, she was just somebody who used to come over and talk to my grandparents, talk to my mom, just friend of the family. So it was anything suspicious about it. But I used to go over her house like a lot. So the one time that I did, she was doing some self-ties on herself, which self-tying is, as it says in the title, tying yourself. So that's how I got interested into it. But, of course, me being as young as I was, it was not right to tie me. So she wouldn't. Uh-huh. So she strictly taught me self-ties, ways to tie myself. I've been trained by her for years until I ventured out on my own and did my own thing. But she taught me self-ties, and I never once laid rope on anybody till I was 18. And when I turned 18, it was like the best thing in the world. But
Game on, right?
it was actually pretty amazing how like I rigged for the first time. But like, it's really important to understand it's not just in Shibari, but it's just in kink in general. I feel, and a lot of people out there feel, that if you're going to do something to somebody, you need to know what it feels like to have it done to yourself. You need to know how it feels to succeed at what you're doing, and you need to know how it feels to fail at what you're doing, so you understand what you're putting your bottom through. And that's actually very important, because that's a big part of communication, but that's self-communication, so you communicate with yourself.
So bottom is in your ass?
No, bottom is in the person who is receiving, I guess,
okay.
if you will.
So bottom is your model, for example.
She would be my rope bottom.
And you would be the top?
I would be the rope top. There's a lot of terms for it. People call them riggers, rope tops, and for rope bottoms, there's rope bottom, rope bunny, stuff like that.
Rope bunny.
Rope
So,
bunny.
Guy, how long have you been into this?
I know, Dorian, you've been doing it for a while, but last year around October, he mentioned on social media that he was starting an album that was Halloween costume based with Shibari ties in it, and I was like, you know what? Why not give it a try? He's my friend. He seems to be really into it. Let's give him a support. And we did the
Like 30
sacrificial.
Yeah, she did like
Yeah.
a damsel in distress
Yeah.
shoot. So like most of my shoots are super, super like artistic. So a lot of them, my goal is when you see a photo, you're not thinking, okay, that's sexy or anything like that. It's purely artistic. So we actually go out in public places and do these shoots. There's been for that entire shoot, we went to Chesapeake Arboretum, the Oak.
Arboretum. You always do that. It's Arboretum.
What? It's just okay.
Arboretum.
Arboretum.
Yes.
Do I need to separate you two?
We went to Oak. I think it's Oak Lake Park, like
Something
near
like
this.
that, yeah.
Yeah, Oak Lake Park.
Place with trees.
Yeah,
It worked.
we went to Town Center, like right in the smack dab, right in the front of what's it called? That steak place.
Virginia Beach or?
Yeah, it's
Chris,
Virginia
yeah.
Beach Town Center, right in front of Ruth Chris. I did a shoot there with one of my models, Vixen, and it was around. It was separate from the October shoot. It was like in December, where everything was like weirdly not very, very cool like it should have been. So she dressed up as a Santa Claus elf, and we went out there, and there wasn't like a lot of people like it would be during the day, but like since it was nighttime and it was a Saturday, it was like a decent amount of pedestrians and stuff. So she was super, super nervous. When it comes to rope, I'm not really nervous. Like, it's just, you do it, you either try or fail. And I was telling everybody about it, and they're like, yo, man, I don't have the money to bail you out of jail because, like, one, you're black. And if you're going to tie up a white girl, there is no trial. You're going straight to jail, and I cannot support you. I'm like, I will be fine. So with me, I like to just, like, risk things, and if it works, good. If it doesn't.
Wait a minute. You're black?
Contrary to popular belief, I am, but I just have like the white mentality, if you will.
So what you're saying is you got a banana in your tailpipe.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I
Nice.
mean, it was pretty funny when we were doing the Halloween shoot because I'm sitting here in a full chest harness with my arms up above my head. We
And
found
kids
this-
walked by. It was
cute-
a like
and
it was
it's
a
an
Sunday.
Arboretum. We're in the middle of Chesapeake.
Yeah, it was a
so
Sunday.
It's
it was like a
nice
small
out.
mall field trip, and like a bunch of kids start walking through it.
Like,
And I'm just like, hey, how you guys doing?
Suburban moms who are just like, oh, good heavens, that large black man is tying up that white woman.
It was probably the most hilarious thing that happened to me that day.
It was fun.
It was really
What
fun.
what large black man?
That would be me.
Oh, you.
Yeah, that would be me. Yeah,
You
but
ain't
like,
that big.
yeah, I mean, I used to be. I used to be really
A little
big.
bit bigger.
Yeah.
You ain't that big.
So with
Hey.
all those pedestrians there, I knew that it was really, really risky because, like, as my friends put it, you're trying to tie up somebody in the middle of rich white country, and you're not going to survive. So I'm like, you know what? I'll try it. So we went out there, and we started right in front of the fountain. And I did like something really, really simple. It was like a chest tie. Her arms were free. Her legs were free. It was just something really artistic on her chest. Nothing too extreme. I always like to start out light with doing anything public because you're doing something like too extreme, that's where the stigma kicks in. So I did it really light, something that was really cool. So people were not expecting that we were street performers. We were not. So I was really nervous, but it ended up going really well. People started coming up to us asking who we were, asking questions and stuff like that. They took photos of us, and I had a Shibari Instagram and Facebook, and they started adding us on their own Instagram, and we took a lot of photos. There was a guy dressed up as Santa Claus, And he came up to us, and we took photos with him. And he asked, if people were just asking him to take photos, it was actually really, really good.
Vixen was in like full on like Mrs. Claus kind of like, but meets Mean Girls like Christmas program costume. Like that's what it was.
Now, did you guys have a photographer with you? Or?
No, I actually took the photos myself. At the time when we did the October shoot, I went through and just looked for photographers, and they volunteered for the project. So. But this was after it, so I had to do my own thing and find just like when I can photographers or just do photography for myself. So it was actually really good. Like that whole aura of what we were doing, people were seeing it, and it was. I felt personally good because they saw it was purely artistic. They didn't see anything sexual about it. But of course, you have those drunk people walking around and they're thinking one thing and saying one thing. But like majority of the people we interacted with loved what we did, and I gained so many followers just because of that.
So what are the legalities of that? I mean, is it legal? I mean, I would assume so.
Well, I mean, I'm not in prison, so I would say it's legal.
I would assume because it's a public space.
But
it's volunteer.
It is volunteer. I don't really it's weird because when I talked about doing this before, I used to work in town center at this construction site. I was talking to the what are they called? Mod Hoffler supervisor about it because I'm very public with what I do. I don't have any shame in what I do because I'm trying to change that so people don't have to. So I was talking to them about it, and they were talking about how I would probably need a permit and this and that. I'm like, well, trying to explain what I want to do and trying to get a permit is going to absolutely fail. So I'm like, I'll just risk it. So I did, and absolutely nothing came back from it. It was just literally positive all around. And ever since then, public shoots have been like my go-to because I'm changing people's mind about what Shibari is, and that's literally my point in what I do is to change people's mind.
So I would offer that you probably wouldn't need a permit, right? Because you're not breaking any vulgarity laws. You're not breaking any kind of exhibitionism type things, and I'm certainly no artist, but I do have one in the house, right? So if you're out in town doing something, whether it's photography, painting, video, my son walks around with a video camera pretty much 24/7. So you can do things in the name of art. You just got to be careful of those obscenity laws and things of that nature. I think if you were going to, if we were going to do, say you were going to do a fully nude shoot or something like that, then you have to have a permit. And you would probably have to have controls in place. But, from an artistic standpoint, I don't know how this would be any different than, I've just got somebody there that's modeling next to a tree, right?
Yeah, and you're not using it for commercial purposes.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So that's, I know specifically Virginia Beach, that's what you would need a permit for. But, so I can't see why you would need one. Wow.
It's just, I just have to be super careful because, it's an art that people look at it and they think sexually or they think, that's really weird. But
there's definite stigma to it. And I mean, the fact that we're pushing that boundary and we're doing it publicly, I'm glad that people have a general curiosity about it. And you're always going to have people who right off the bat don't want to understand because they're afraid. Right. But then you get those people that are genuinely curious. I have friends that I'm close to that I'll talk to about this, that, this is what I do. I've actually brought friends onto our modeling team that are so excited to start. And I mean, there are, questions, is it just mainly sexual? Is it a fetish? Is it something erotic? And I mean, it's, you take it the way you see it and the way you pursue it. I mean, Dorian and I's relationship is strictly therapeutic when it comes to Shibari and artistic as well. I'm a huge artist. I love photography. I love painting and working with my hands. So to get to work with him and introduce a new aspect to art for myself, it's a totally enjoyable experience.
Gaia, you just said a word that piqued my interest. And it's probably not the word that I expected, and it was therapeutic, right? So do me a favor and explain what part of this provides therapy, and what is that for both of you, really?
So for me personally, I struggle with anxiety and depression. I was diagnosed at the age of 14 bipolar disorder as well. I believe I need a re-diagnosis about that, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's mainly the chest harnesses that we do. I love having my arms and my legs and stuff bound, but for me, the chest harnesses are the best experience because there's this wonderful balance of vulnerability and strength as well. You get this kind of empowerment. I've struggled a lot with my personal identity and self-love as my personal image. And to have these ties that just wrap around you in the most
Safety blanket.
yeah, it's almost like a safety blanket, but you almost feel like you're putting on a Wonder Woman costume when you do this stuff. It feels empowering and releasing at the same time, and I almost enjoy the untying of it more than I do the tying, because especially with me, Dorian's always been very respectful of my personal pressure boundaries. He's always in the midst of a tie asking me, is this too tight? Do we need to adjust this? Because I've got a few lumps, I've got some squish to me, so if you place something the wrong way and tighten it, it's going to hurt. But he's always been very aware of, what feels comfortable for me, what is going to work the best to ease my anxiety. And in a lot of circumstances, people with anxiety, that gravity or that pressure is the most relieving thing that they could experience. And then the release of untying, it's almost yoga-like. You take in, you don't realize you're holding this breath and this energy and this tension in your chest, and as soon as you get the ties undone from your rib cage and your collarbone and your lungs, it's like this kind of moment where everything settles back in, but it's realigned in a sense.
How was that again? Okay, thanks. I needed that. Just make sure we're all tracking, yeah. So, you said some people, the stigma is there, right?
Yeah.
So, it could be sexual, it could be fetish, it could be, for you, therapeutic. Mm-hmm. Can it be all three, or is it just the stigma that's attached to it?
It can be all three. It's like, I always try to make this reference, but I always make it wrong. It's kind of like you have an item that has a specific use, but you can do with that item whatever you want to suit your needs. So with Shibari, people can use it sexually. They can tie up their girlfriends, they can tie up their wives or such, or whatever they want to do, and they can do that, and that can give them their use for it and their need. But it's not required to do that.
So kind of like a spatula.
Kind of like a spatula.
Or
You use it to
tool,
flip
like,
pancakes,
a
but
gerber.
sometimes people just scrape their stuff off the grill.
I got nothing. Yeah.
I mean, it's
just
it's
throwing things out there at this point.
It's all what you want to use it for, but if you do add Shibari to both artistic and sexual and however you want it, and you add all three, then you can. But its original use was for torture and imprisonment, but modernly we use it for something different. Now, I can blame social media, because social media has posted and put the image of sexual rope in our heads, not just like Facebook and Instagram, but like movies and such. So I don't like 50 Shades of Grey, because everybody comes up to me and says, oh, so you're 50 Shades of Grey pretty much. No, we were actually here way before that movie, but I do have to give it its props because it has made people curious. Mm-hmm. And it has made people more open to trying new things when it comes to not just rope, but kink in general. So for that, I can give it a thumbs up, and it has helped my business grow a lot more than it originally started with. And I've met a lot of people in my travels. I met a lot of people in my shoots, and it's just, I love meeting people. And I do this not just for the stigma, but not just to change the stigma, but Shibari is really beautiful. I'm not very skilled in a lot of things. So to find something I'm really, really skilled in and I'm good at, and I can help people better themselves and realize their self-image, that they are beautiful people. They don't have to down themselves. If they need rope to see that, then I'm okay with doing that. There's no selfish type of reason I do it. I don't do it for the sexual aspect. I don't do it for anything but to make that person feel amazing. And I love showing off my work, and I always make sure I keep within the boundary, because it's a business. You don't want to run your business to the ground.
So how is it a business for you? Explain that aspect of it.
Well, for me, I grew up around Esmeralda a lot, seeing what she does, making products, doing photo shoots, having clients pay for their photo shoots. Now me, I am not a crafty person unless it's rope, and I don't make my own rope. So the photo shoot aspect of it, I'll have some paid clients come up to me and be like, hey, we want to do this and this and this. Can you do this? And we'll pay you such and such. And that aspect of it is a business to me. But there are some people who don't want to really do it for the photo shoots. Now, this is probably one of my most invested parts about Shibari. There's an art called Shibari Healing, which as Gaia said, helps with anxiety and depression. But people don't understand that there is a huge science and different perspective and aspect of Shibari. It's not just the ropes. There's literally stuff going on that you can't see, but you can only feel. I think, what's the word? Endorphins?
Endorphin release.
Yes. So Shibari helps increase the levels of endorphins. And I've seen cases where people remember things that they didn't usually remember before. It helps with a lot of things, not just anxiety. It helps you remember stuff. It's a beautiful art. It's beautiful. And Shibari healing, it comes from a long, long time ago, but there's a lot of shamans out in England and Scotland. Like, Shibari is really big out of the States, and it's getting bigger in the States, so that's good. But Shibari healing is a very important process where you're binding somebody, and it's kind of like a body massage. It's kind of like yoga. It's kind of like having therapy all at the same time. It's like suspension. I like suspension, but I tend to stay away from it because people think it's like the top tier of Shibari, and it's really not. You can do a lot with suspension, but there's also more that you can do on the ground. And I feel that for Shibari healing, if you're off the ground, that is great and you feel more free. But if you stay grounded and you can still feel that freedom, it does just as much as being up in the air and free.
So do you get more satisfaction out of the providing Shibari healing or making something beautiful?
I think primarily, it's a hard question, but I'll answer it this way. So, again, I don't have a lot of skills in life. I'm a plumber, but I'm not good at plumbing. I am a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but in no shape or form do I feel I'm actually good at jiu-jitsu. I'm a gamer, but I'm not necessarily good at video games. But this I know I'm good at, and if you're good at something, do it. But people like Gaia and my other models like Manga and all those other people, they have never been tied before. All of them never been tied before me. And they're nervous, obviously, at first because it is like a stigma thing and it's scary. So helping them change a big aspect like that and having them be obsessed with it and realize there's more to it than that. I have a model that I recruited very recently. Her name's Manga. We call her Manga. So she has anxiety and depression up the butt. It's actually really, really bad. And the first time I tied her...
Your choice of words when we're talking about here. I'm just saying.
The first time I tied her...
That's cool, whatever.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. It's a king thing now. The first time I tied her, she was super, super, super nervous. And she was going through some things at the time. But after I tied her, she, like, instantly became obsessed with it. So every day, since then, almost every day, I've gotten a text message from her and say, hey, can you do a Shibari session with me? I have this going on, I have that going on. And having my, I guess I want to call it services and being wanted to help somebody in that way so much, it makes me happy. Because it's like a self-worth thing in a way. Personally, I feel a lot better about myself knowing that I'm used to other people.
So you're getting paid for this then?
Sometimes I'll charge them, sometimes I don't. For the Shibari healing sessions, I do charge sometimes, but for my close friends, I do not. For the photo shoots, I definitely charge unless I go to you. If I go to you, I do not expect you to pay. But if you come to me, then yes, you have to pay. So
it's a matter of you building your portfolio and...
Yes, that's why I recruit and go to a lot more people than they come to me, because I like to build. I like to have a small team of models where I can rely on, and we're all close to. We're like a family, kind of like a rope family. Yeah. We're pretty much a rope family. Yeah. We're all best friends.
So you're all bound together, would you say?
Yes, I would say that is a terrible pun.
So let me ask you, how many really, really good images do you have in your portfolio right now?
We have some really
We have so many. But there's so many. So I stopped doing rope for a while. So I'll get spells where I put down the bundles and just focus on other things, or there's something going on in my life and I'll just drop it in general. But I gotten back into it recently because I lost my mindset about it and I didn't know as a rigger who I was and why I do it. And when you lose your passion with something, your work is shit. It's really bad. When you're not passionate about Shibari, your rope is just terrible. So I got back into it because I realized where I stand with doing Shibari. So my work has gotten a lot better. I'm a really slow starter with like everything I do, but I've always been slow when it comes to tying. But I've gotten a lot better. I noticed once I found my passion back, I've gotten a hell of a lot faster. One of my issues was my speed, and I tied up an older model that I had recently, and she complimented me saying I was really impressed at how fast it went. Because usually I take my time with a lot of things, especially with rope.
Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah, I actually do. I know I am not good.
Couldn't resist. Go there.
She complimented me on my speed, and it really made me happy because like people see my progress.
I normally don't get complimented on my speed. I get chastised. Really? Already? Really? Seriously?
I think out of the ones that I've seen so far, because, I mean, we share a lot of stuff through the group chat and everything. I think the Mad Gagger from Halloween.
Yes,
that was one of my
actually
favorites.
cool.
But I'm a bit biased because I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan. So anything related is going to catch my interest. That and the clown stuff and Vixen shoot
Whoa,
at the
clowns.
finish.
Oh man.
So
have
clowns.
Have you ever considered like going to a local business here, whether whatever kind of venue, and actually doing a show, hanging your artwork, have it exhibited for a week or two or whatever, and maybe the opening day do a live tie or something like that?
I haven't, but I used to perform a lot. I used to do a lot of performances for Shibari and demos. I would have a specific model come with me. We would go to different locations, and we would literally like perform Shibari, whether it's suspension or groundwork, and we would teach classes. It's not hard, but I never thought about like actually going up to a person and be like, hey, this is what I do, display my work. But I think if I could do that, and I really believe that they would say yes, I think that'd be really
Well,
huge.
and I say that because actually there's a huge art scene in Norfolk, huge. And I've been to some places that I think would welcome something like that. I mean, I've seen some pretty, what mainstream would consider pretty crazy shit, right? But I would be willing to bet you could find someone, and probably a small venue, you put up 15, 20 pieces, and maybe the opening night you do a live demo or something.
That'd be really cool.
Just as a way to like you said, grow your business, but also kind of break down that stigma. Because when I first heard you did this, right, I had the same misconception that everybody had.
Yep, I sure did.
And and I started following your Instagram, and I was looking at some of the pictures. I'm like, that's really cool. But some of it for me wasn't just the tying. The tying was gorgeous, but it was the lighting, it was the setting, right? And when you add all those things together, you get a feeling, right? And if I can look at an image and it makes you feel something, whatever, regardless of what it is, that's art. At least to me.
I think that's what I love so much about us when we work together on things, like even if whether I'm modeling or if I'm helping you figure out sets or figuring out where we're going to shoot or helping with costuming, is I, as an artist, I love to write as well. I love telling a story, and photography is one of those beautiful mediums where if you do your job right, not just with the background or the lighting or the costuming or the makeup, if you get it all wonderfully well put together, you tell this story that has absolutely no words but every word necessary in it. And having Dorian as a teammate and, working together on all of these shoots, it's lovely that I can come to him and be like, hey, I had this idea, or maybe we could do this kind of costume, or this is just this little thing that I saw and it made me think of this. And he's like, yeah, that's great. Like, this is awesome. So I love the fact that we're not just focusing on the rope as a medium, we're using it as a tool to tell a story as well.
You know what's funny, and Andy, I don't know if you've noticed this, right? So all of our interaction, Dorian, has been at jiu-jitsu, right? And when you're rolling, everything's fine. But when you're talking at the gym, you're always kind of like, what's going to happen? Kind of almost timid. Maybe that's the wrong term, but apprehensive is a better word.
Yeah.
There you go. But listening to you talk about something that you're obviously so passionate about, it's like a completely different guy.
Totally different person.
I have
Yeah.
mad
Completely different
anxiety. I'm just really bad at like, I'm awkward. Like I'm super, super awkward. So like,
Well, I know
especially-
I've rolled with you. Go on.
Yeah, like, especially in like certain settings and situations, I'm like, I don't know how to respond, so I'll like either laugh really weird or like say something weird, and then I'm like, I really shouldn't have said that. I should have thought that through a bit more. But I don't know. It's when I'm not good at a lot of stuff. So when I talk about stuff that I am good at, or when I talk about jiu-jitsu, is like there's no stoppage. There's like I don't have to think. Shibari's. It's not. Yeah, it's pretty much my life. If I have the passion for it, it's my life. A lot of people ask me why do I do this, and I never have like a clear-cut answer for them. I just end up rambling about different things that make me like what I do and stuff like that. But
Do you ever feel a compulsion to do it?
a little. Like there's been some days where I have to like lay rope. So there was a straight month where every night I would just self-tie. Like it's a big part of my life, and I can't see myself actually without Shibari to this point. Like maybe a couple years ago I could have put it down forever and been done with it, but like I think about it now, it's a big part of who I am in general. I'm a detailed person, and when it comes to Shibari, there's a lot of details into it, and it's spiritual. It's a really spiritual thing. There's a lot of aspects about it that people don't see. So to explain all this to people, the sides they don't see, it's just so much to talk about. Like there's no way you can fit it all in one. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all for me to get a message from you halfway through my day at work and be like, hey, can I come over later? I'd really like to just tie. I'm like, yeah. I love, honestly, every time we're done with a session, that's the best night's sleep I could possibly have. Like, it's so amazing. Like, I love having him come and tie and do chess pieces and stuff like that with me, not only for the aspect of, you know, filling out his portfolio and helping my friend get a little closure and relaxation. It helps me, too. So it's almost like I think it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, where we both just kind of help each other.
And like the thing I get the most when it comes to Shibari is like people, they always use the pun, hey, when they say, hey, I just told my friend I was tied up the moment so I couldn't like, I'm like, yeah, haven't heard that one before.
Yeah.
But also they always ask me like, where's his rope in and stuff like that. But I clean my rope like a lot because I do a lot of tying. I stopped doing it and I recently got back into it because I found my passion for it again. So like I do a lot of tying. So everybody knows what Minehune soaps.
Yes.
I actually like take a chunk out of her soap when I do buy it and I put it in the washer, and that's what I use for the scents for my rope.
She actually just sent us a comment, believe it or not.
Did
Actually,
she?
more of a question. And she wanted to know more of the history and origins of Shibari. So I guess you'll just have to listen, figure it out. Pay attention, Lay. Damn it. But no, I want to kind of go back to what Chad was talking about earlier with possibly doing a show. My philosophy is simple, man. If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
True.
Always. So, you know, you're putting yourself out there on a limb already when you're doing these public shows or whatever, you know, like you're talking about at Town Center. What's the harm of going and asking somebody? You know, what's the worst that they can say?
Just no, honestly.
Exactly.
And
So
then no is the start of negotiations.
True.
there you go. And then, I mean, and if they say yes, well, then look, man, now you're one step further than where you were before. Listen, this is not my thing. It's not for me, but I'm all for if it's, you know, especially for you guys, if it's something that's helping you with your anxiety and everything, I'm all for it, you know. Again, not my thing.
There's definitely bad. There's always good and bad, and there's always bad and good, and there is always going to be bad things when it comes to just not just kink but Shibari, because it makes certain aspects of like everyday life really hard. When you actually do the art, it makes it actually really, really hard. But
And I think the one thing people don't expect when they do walk into this, I'll say, lifestyle, really, because on some aspects it is a lifestyle. When they walk into it, they don't anticipate that it's not a one-sided relationship between the rigger and the model, the receiver. It's very much, I won't go as far to say it's dominance and submission. There is some small part of that depending on what aspect you're coming from, whether it be sexual, therapeutic, art. But you have to have a clear mind when you walk into it. If you walk into it with this energy that, if you're carrying everything that's been bothering you and all this bad negative stuff that you've got going on, if you're more concerned about checking your phone or what you're going to have for dinner once you're done with this, you're not going to get from it what you really and truly need.
You have to commit to the session.
Yeah, you have to commit to the session. And it's not just you finding vulnerability in the tie, it's your rigger as well. Because I can't tell you how many times that Dorian and I have done roping together, and we've spent 45 minutes to 2 hours where he's going his ties as slow as he can, but we're talking things out. Like, he's, releasing on me what's going on with him, and I'm unloading onto him what's going on with me. And it's kind of like this moment where you're okay to let these walls down. Because I think, not just in Western culture, but in people in general, we have a tendency to brick ourselves in, like, for the sake of our own vulnerability. We don't want to be exposed because we're going to be chastised or judged. And honestly, you know what? In 150 years, everybody that's going to be bothering you about what they think is going to be dead. Like, that's kind of the mentality I have. But I love the fact that you come into it and you release. That's the biggest part about it, and you have to have the right mentality. That's the biggest thing. So
speaking of Minahuni soaps, Lay just sent another message in, and she wanted me to ask you, Dorian, if you had ever been tied up and suspended.
Yes, I have actually been tied up and suspended more times than I can count. Everything I do to my bottom, whether it's rope or other things, I've always had it done to myself.
What about the rest of you?
The rest of me?
Yeah, you said your bottom. I was just...
No, actually, like, suspension is not the top tier in my opinion, but it is pretty, it is different, and it does feel pretty good because, like, once you're off the ground, you're off the ground. Like, it's like you're flying. It's the closest I really could feel that I'm flying through the air, especially in that, like, that scene, that aura. Is just, once you're off the ground, you literally feel free. It's really an amazing feeling.
So you said something at the beginning. You said that you this is part of the kink scene, I think is what your words, right? Is this the only part of the kink scene that you're in, or is there?
I'm in. So Hampton Roads in general, believe it or not, is very big into kink. Like, you might not even know it. The bars you guys go to or the places you guys go into, once those doors shut and it's closed, kinksters go in there, have scheduled events, and they have play parties and events, and they teach and they learn.
I believe it. There's a bunch of filthy sailors running around.
It's funny because a lot of my models are, like, connected to the military. Believe it or not, it's crazy. But
Chad.
But yeah, it's I am into the kink scene in general. Just not in Hampton Roads. I'm more of a DC type of, DC and Baltimore type of in Maryland kink resider of anything. I do go to Hampton Roads sometimes to go to their events, but, like, I prefer the DC area. But I do indulge in other kinks besides rope, if that answers your question.
Like, I'm not what?
I knew that was next.
Yeah, I mean,
I do like sensory deprivation, sensory play. Like, those are probably one of my favorites because I'm like, when I do kink, I put a lot of, like, I used to not have emotion to what I did. I just would do it, and then that person would get what they need, and that would be enough for me to be happy. But it's hard for me to change my mind. This is just a general rule for me. It's hard for me to change my mind about something unless I'm literally proven wrong. Unless you physically and mentally change my mind, I'm going to think one way. And that's how it is with kink. So I was dead set, like, this is what I do, and I don't have to put any emotion in what I do. Like, I can do it. There's no problem with it. So I dated this girl who put emotion in everything she did. And the hard part about being in this lifestyle is it makes certain people uncomfortable. So with me, I'm monogamous. Like, I live a lifestyle where I can have a girlfriend and I can be just for that girl. But at the same time, it's like, this lifestyle, having your significant other see you tie somebody else, it's hard for them. So relationships will always be a hard thing for me. But when it comes to kink, I always distance myself with emotion because I was always in a relationship, or I didn't want to get attached to this person, and so on and so forth. But I learned that you can put emotion into your work. So with sensory deprivation and sensory play, it's you take somebody's senses away and their other senses increase. I'm a big, like, passionate touch person. So I like to feel things and have things react to touch. So I would use this really cool thing called emotion lotion, where you rub it on somebody's whatever area you want. It doesn't have to be a vaginal area or anal area. It's called emotion lotion.
Emotion lotion.
Yeah, you rub it and it gets warm, and then when you blow on it, it gets super hot, and it just feels amazing. So when you use on sensitive areas like the neck or the collarbone, it's like awesome.
Some of us call that KY.
Well,
I'm just saying.
But this one is just a little bit better. And then I'm not a big into pain, but like I do have a pretty awesome flogger that was handmade by one of our one of Lady Esmeralda's old crafters. She's no longer here, but the last flogger she made for me, and it is top-notch quality.
The little spindle thing you have is pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, what's that called? A Wyndham something wheel thing. It's like a wheel with spikes, and you would like just brush against the body, and it's like prickles and gives you goosebumps, and it makes your body feel kind of like weird. It's like really, really cool. Like I love things that create
leather punch, like the kind that's like the
like another tool.
Yeah.
So when you got, like, did you start with you were into Shibari and this grew into these other areas of kink, or is it just kind of parallel paths?
I mean, how it went was strictly Shibari related, but then as I travel with that Lady Esmeralda and I go to different events, of course, I'm over here just tying myself, and I look over and somebody's getting beaten with a flogger, or somebody's getting set on fire or something like that. Not like that.
Whoa,
Not,
back up,
okay, hold on.
back up.
Time out. Let's rewind like 5
You didn't
seconds.
have to explain the
Okay,
fire.
so-
Explain the fire one.
He had to with me, and then he showed me, and then I
It's
understood.
not that bad. So fire play is a form of play that requires and uses fire. It's kind of like putting alcohol in your hand and then lighting it on fire and shaking your hand away. So that sounds stupid, right? But it's
It does.
actually
Yes.
it sounds absolutely stupid.
100%. I'm just
But-
going to throw it out there.
A lot of stuff in kink looks and sounds either disgusting, stupid, or wrong. And there's always
a lot of it is based in pushing limitations.
true. So think of it like a heating pad. You have the heating pad on, then you take it off, and you feel absolutely amazing. It's just like that. And then there's other kinks that you put together. So like flogging.
I'm going to take
and
your
fire
word
flogging.
for it. Just saying. Hey, I don't mean to cut you off there, because
you're fine.
we could do kink on like a whole different show.
All right.
But I did notice that when you walked in here tonight that you had a bag with you.
I did.
What's
I
in your
still do.
bag?
So in this bag of mine,
Guy just got a little bit excited there.
I have my rope.
This is actually the jute rope you used for my damsel shoot,
I
isn't
did.
it?
I did. I actually used 3
Gee,
different sets,
It's
but one of them
colored
got
and-
stolen. Yeah, this one's my rainbow rope. I love this one. Peaches got me that one. She's like one of my.
So I've noted Gaia, that's a very unusual name, and you've Lady Esmeralda, Peaches. What was the other one?
We got manga.
Manga,
yeah.
Manga, Little Bear, B. Shout out to B.
Vixen isn't on.
Vixen,
is she
yeah,
on
she
the-
used to do some shooting for me.
She comes in occasionally.
Yeah,
So all these different names.
What's your name?
I'm godly.
Yeah, and then we
That's
have
been my
Cerise
name.
as well. We can't
That's
forget
been my
Cerise.
name for like since I was like 15. That's what I was dubbed as
Yeah,
godly. There's always a story behind it, all the
Yeah,
names. So
I'm sure there is. But the reason I bring that up is so everyone has names to kind of protect identities, or is it a fantasy thing? Is it?
it's kind of a
what
little
is
bit
it?
of both.
Yeah.
And like people who get dubbed names, there's always like something behind it. But like most people would use names to protect themselves from their everyday life.
Got it. So kind of like pilot call signs in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the perfect
stage
example.
names thing.
Okay,
Yeah, something
cool.
like
I
that.
can't imagine somebody having a nickname.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, creepy.
Creepy on the
Chauncey. Geez, where else do we want to go?
I got them all.
High Five.
Right.
Philly. All right, so what we got here? We got some ropes.
Yeah, so-
let's see what we got.
Each piece of rope, each material of rope is used for different things. So over here we have cotton, black and purple, and I think I have red, or maybe I left my red, which I don't do often, but no, I left my red. Okay, so I have a bundle of black, purple, and I have red at home. I just don't know where, so that's actually pretty bad. So cotton rope is primarily a decorative rope. Use it for the decorations, like the pretty stuff about it. It's not usually very good for kinbaku tight knots, so you would use it for the decorative aspect.
So you need something that's going to bind.
Yeah.
So Chad, being the salty sailor that you are, you know a little bit about some knot tying.
I can tie some knots.
Yeah. Of course, we got another comment here from Dora, actually.
Hi, Dora.
Dora wants to know, Chad, will you let Dorian tie you up?
No, this is what we're dying here.
Here for.
There you have it. Anyway, I'm sorry, Dorian.
No, you're fine. Nylon, basic. I call it camping rope in a way. It's you can use it for suspension, but I wouldn't. It's not very strong. I really feel it's like a rope that can stay tight, but it will get really worn easily when you use suspension and stuff like that. And then you have what I call the granddaddy of rope, which is jute. There's different materials and specifications for jute, but jute in general is always the rope I feel you want to go to, whether you're trying to learn just restrictive stuff, decorative stuff, or suspension. Jute is always the way to go. But
Holds the knot well.
Yes.
Holds
For a lot of the
Yes.
chest pieces and the
Yes.
pressure stuff that he does for
but
me,
it's
we use jute.
hella expensive. Like jute's very expensive. It's like it can be $1. It can be $2 to $3 like a foot. Now, if you're a rigger and you're a suspension, you want at least 200 feet. For the average size model, you want at least 200 feet. So 200 feet of rope, that's a lot of money.
And our team is varying sizes. I mean, I think the smallest size we have
Manga.
is like a
manga.
manga.
Manga would
She's
be
like
the
a,
shortest.
I think she's a 0 or 2 or
Yeah.
something like that. And you've got girls that are like 4'4", and then all the way up to some of our other models who are like almost 6 feet.
Vixen's like 6 foot,
Yeah.
6'1", 6'2". She's
And
tall
you've,
as
we've
shit.
got ranging like chest sizes, varying
Body
hip
types,
sizes, body
chunky,
types,
curvy, thick.
ethnicities. Like, so you have to think about that when you're getting your length of rope and what rope you're going to work with, because your cotton is going to stretch a little bit more than
Yeah.
your jute. It's got a little more elasticity in the bind and the way it's braided.
So I want to go a little technical here for
Okay.
just a second. Do you take into consideration tensile strength of your ropes at all? And how do you figure that out?
Usually for strength like that, I don't necessarily have to worry about the strength of the rope until I do suspension, because that's when it's more important. But if you're doing groundwork, you don't really have to necessarily worry about it unless you're using paracord rope. Then that's completely different.
And even then with suspension, you've got at least 2 to 3 tie points from your main hanging area where you rig.
Yeah, most riggers, if you're at home, you have a let's call it a hard point in general, but we use hard points, which is like a suspension ring that connects, and that's what we use. I actually want to get a hard point that I can just keep in my playroom, which used to be my bedroom until I hated my bed.
All right, dude. Look, I'm chomping at the bit here. I got to see some of this stuff.
So you want to see?
I'm getting excited. Yeah, let's show me your magic here.
All right.
You gotta do chest, legs,
Yeah, let's do a
arms,
chest tie. It's pretty simple.
You need
Can
me
I
to move my hair
take
up?
this off?
Yeah,
Brother,
absolutely.
you can do
Go
whatever
ahead.
you want. Before we dive too deep into the good stuff, we're going to stop right here, and we're going to break this up into 2 parts. So if you want to see the good stuff and listen to the good stuff and get to the nitty-gritty, come back next Sunday at 3 p.m. and part 2 will be dropping like it's hot. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in again next Sunday, like we said, and finish the episode. Talk to you guys soon.